Greco, Chair of the Commission. If you're here to present a project, you'll have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. Staff will then present the staff report. We will then ask the public for comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. Commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based upon the City Ordinance Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code, Design Guidelines, the Secretary of the Interior Standards, the Historic Preservation Development Review, the HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibilities. Owners, agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence cell phones. At this point, I will ask my commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Sutton. I am an architect. I hold the Architectural Historian Chair.
Shauna Boyd, Interior Designer.
Ashley DeCubis, I'm an attorney.
Susan Klaus Smith, architect.
We are also in attendance here tonight with staff, Ron Vila, Elaine Lunn, Beverly Jewisak, and the Senior Assistant City Attorney, Kate Wells. At this point, we have the meetings from the December 2nd, 2019 public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 2nd, 2019.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ron Vila. I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Under announcements this evening, we are going to hold our Wednesday, July 8th public hearing at 6 p.m. So we split up the agenda, so we won't be here so late. Also, in the chair's packet, we have the staff reviews. This is the function that we do administratively, so we keep a log of that and we put it into the record as well. And then briefly, I'd like to go through a program that we have. There's a new cycle that's coming up. This is for the Interstate Historic Preservation Trust Fund. The public can be eligible. This is the West Tampa National District. This is the Tampa Heights National District. And this is the Ybor City National District. So if you're a contributing structure or a structure that's over 75 years old, you could be eligible for this program. As they widen the interstate, there was a memorandum of agreement between the state and the city. They displaced many homes, 69 to be exact, and we relocated it back into the historic districts. And with the monies and the proceeds that we gained through that program, we created the trust fund and the grant program. So we kind of turned that negative as the interstate kind of bisected the historic districts. We use that money in a positive fashion. This is just touching upon the Interstate Historic Preservation Trust Fund. This is the grant program. There's two programs. There's the trust fund, and then there's the grant program. This is the next cycle, which is January 15th. It is income qualifying, and there's the limits down here, if anybody's interested. And then moving to the grant program, we have one example of that. And the scope of the project was to repair 13 original windows, the sashes, and the frames, the mechanics, so they operate with the weights, and then the hardware as well. you see prior to rehabilitation, and then how the money was used. For the grant program, it's up to $15,000 that one could apply for. So the recreation of the windows, the 2/2, very period appropriate for a structure that was built in 1923. Moving to the loan program. This is for the Interstate Historic Preservation Trust Fund loan. This is the next cycle that we have. We need all applications in by February 12th into our office. And one example of the success of the loan program was at 508 East Park. This structure here kind of dead ends into the interstate, and we had many requests. It was a very blighted structure, and it kind of brought down the block, and some of the past owners wanted demolition of the structure. So you see rehabilitation at its best, prior to the work commencing, obviously, and then after. And the scope of the work was the stabilization, includes the framing and the chimney repairs, the exterior rehabilitation, to the siding, the trim, the porch ceilings, the windows, the doors, and then the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing as well as soft cost. Usually when you enter the loan program and the grant program, we try to get a public benefit out of it, something visible from the exterior that the neighborhood benefits, but then you could also use that money to service other items as well. And this is just another shot of that same structure, and you see it, in a very poor condition, and then after rehabilitation. And if anybody in the public is interested, there's more information. You could go to www.tampagov.net, historic preservation /programs, trust fund program, or you could call the office at 274-3100, option 3. Moving down the agenda, we have one continuation reflected. We're going to need one motion for that, and that's ARC 19-298 for the address of 506 East Mohawk Avenue. And that request was for the agent, or by the agent, to continue to February 3rd, 2020. Because this is their third continuation, they're going to have to renotice the property, and if anybody's following that, then they'll be able to come and support or state their concerns at that public hearing. So if we could get a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to move to grant a continuance in case ARC 19-298 for the property located at 506 East Mohawk Avenue to the February 3rd, 2020 public hearing at 6 p.m.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
At this time, Ms. Wells, do you wish to address the board?
Thank you, Mr. Vila. Now is the time, to the extent that you have any conflicts of interest on any of the 3 remaining matters on tonight's agenda, or if you have had any ex parte communications with members of the public, now would be the time to disclose it. If the ex parte communications were in writing, we would need a copy of that written communication for the record. And if they were verbal, we would need to know the sum and substance of the conversation and who you met with. So I'm saying none to the above. Thank you.
At this time, everybody that is to testify this evening, please stand up and raise your right hand. Ms. Juzak will swear us in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will be providing this evening is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. And now we're ready for the first case, which is on page 2 of your agenda. It's ARC 20-55 for the address of 309 East Gladys Street. And Elaine Lunn will address the board at this time.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. The first item you're hearing tonight, as Ron stated, is case ARC 20-55 at 309 East Gladys Street in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This application is for the new construction of an accessory structure with some minor site improvements, that being a new driveway at that location. There's an existing structure on the site. It's a non-contributing building built in 1988. So that's a residence there. Moving through the photo essay quickly here. This is, as I stated in the Tampa Heights Historic District. You can see it there, sort of centrally located in the district north of Columbus Drive. This is the 1920s Sanborn map of the site, showing a house in a very similar location to the one that is there today, but not the same house, at the southwest corner of Gladys and Jefferson Street. This is the present day aerial of the property. You can see the current structure, the roof of it here. And the surrounding structures that are there as well. This is looking at the house from the east side from Jefferson. So this is considered the front of the property because it is the shortest side of the lot. This is the south side of the house. This is the north side of the house. And this is sort of a view looking at the north and west sides. If you're standing about in the same spot here that you would be to take this photograph, and you turn just a little, you can see the current parking pad for the site. It fits the transportation requirements for a 2-car parking spot. And then further to the west, there's an alley behind the property. And this is looking south down the alley. If you turn around and look north, you have the view toward Gladys. And this is a look at the building that is directly across the alley from the subject property. This is a non-contributing structure here. So across the street from the site are a few other non-contributing structures that were built around the same time as the current one, the subject site. And going just to the south down Jefferson, this is what the house next door looks like. It's a historic house, but it has been altered. And then across Jefferson Street, there's a vacant lot at the southeast corner of Gladys and Jefferson. So if you're looking north at Jefferson, this is your view. See, there are, in fact, several intact historic contributing structures along the side of Jefferson, and also to the south, once you get past the vacant property to the left there. And looking west along the, nope, not that one twice. Do you think I have the same picture in here twice? So this is, all right. Okay, that's looking north on Jefferson, excuse me. This is looking south on Jefferson, and this is looking toward the okay, these are both looking south on Jefferson. I apologize. I think our photos got a little out of order there. So, given that, at this time the applicant will come forward and provide sort of the overview of the site and the proposed work and present the elevations and section.
Thank you. Good evening. David Galunas. I'm the homeowner at 309 East Gladys Street. I should note I'm not an architect or a designer, but I'll walk this through as best I can. This is the site plan. We proposed to put the garage basically in line with the existing building. It's set back from the alleyway 12 feet. The alleyway itself is an additional 12 feet. So that's a total 24-foot setback from the end of the alleyway. The driveway pad would be 12 feet, therefore, by 18 feet. The structure itself is 20 feet deep by 24, so it's a 20 by 24 structure. And that gives you an idea on the site plan. This is a just more detailed view. We are going to move back the existing fence behind to give view in taking the car in and out of the garage, and there's a 3-foot radii flare at the end of the driveway as well. That'll be a new driveway, concrete poured driveway. This gives detail on the building itself. It's an 8-foot building, additional 4 feet on the roof for 12 feet total. There's a 3x3 window which faces Gladys Street, and a pedestrian access door which faces east towards the existing structure. Shows you the elevation in detail on the garage. All the materials are picked to match the existing structure, which, as Elaine noted, is non-contributing. It's a white stucco building with a hardy board 8 gable wood on the top. The shingle roof will match the existing structure as well, and I'll be able to show some of the hardware and selections that we picked that match the existing structure as well, down to the exact fixtures. The wall elevation. There's a 2-foot aluminum drip edge, a wood fascia at the top here. There's a 12-inch vinyl soffit, which matches the existing vinyl soffit on the existing home. Again, the smooth stucco finish, which matches the white stucco on the home itself, and the asphalt roof with shingles, again, which is in line with the house, the existing structure. Poured concrete floor of the garage, along with poured concrete driveway connecting out to the alleyway, which is unpaved. I'll show some of the finishes here. White and black doesn't show up amazingly. White stucco. This is the hardy board on the gable, the window, the door. Sorry. And the vinyl soffit, which matches the existing structure, the 16x7 steel garage door that goes off on the alleyway. And that is my concise presentation of the garage at 309 East Gladys.
Thank you.
Commissioners, the staff found that this application was consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines, and that the plans for the new accessory structure do match the existing building. There's not a lot of detail or ornamentation on the existing structure. We encourage the applicant to make sure that things like the overhang depth was consistent with the at least the smallest part of the overhang on the primary structure, that the overhang and soffit kind of match the primary structure in form and material. You can see that the primary structure has an enclosed soffit there, and that the generally the not really a lot else to work with from the primary structure. The windows are simple, kind of just punched openings. There's no sill on them, so there's not much in the way of ornamentation there. So with that, I believe I did meet with the applicant prior to the public hearing, and we reviewed all the conditions to help make sure that they were met for the public hearing. With that, I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point in the hearing, we'll open it for any public comment, either for or against. Seeing none, we will move to commissioners asking questions, starting on my right.
Sir, if you please, could you please bring up your site plan for review, please?
Yes.
I have two questions. First of all, I make note that you are going to be moving a fence back from the alley line for sightline purposes. Are you intending to reuse whole or part the existing fence, or are you going to be rebuilding that from scratch?
We'd use the existing fence, basically. It's a simple wood fence that we repurpose and realign it.
Okay, so we're not looking at this as being a potential problem with the matching of materials,
No.
matching of construction?
No. And the fence was just put in less than a year ago.
I also note that you have a concrete parking pad off of Gladys Street. Is it your intention to maintain that pad?
No, the intention is to reclaim that back into the backyard of the house. What we're waiting on is there's a live oak tree right here that the city damaged when they put in new sidewalks. And the city's communicated to me that they need to take care of the trees at an at-risk structure right now. So I'm waiting to hear what's going on with that tree. And at that point, we'd reclaim the driveway and take out the driveway and make it as part of the backyard, basically.
Thank you very much.
I don't have any additional questions.
No additional questions.
I just have one question for clarification's sake. What is the overhang proposed for the existing, or the new garage, and what is the smallest overhang of
12
the
inches.
existing? It is 12? The wall section doesn't indicate that, and the elevations seem to indicate that there is barely any overhang. So as you move forward, just
Sure.
have someone confirm and coordinate those two drawings.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a few questions for you regarding the site plan. So one of the things that you mentioned was the garage is going to be in line with the existing house, correct?
Yeah.
What's the dimension that you have between the new proposed garage and the south site boundary in blue? Does it say 6.5?
Yeah, it's the problem is it's not the house isn't perfectly aligned is the problem. So it's somewhere between 6.5 and 7 basically. The actual this alley isn't exactly even, in other words. So as best we can, we're lining up with the south side of the house.
So it may just be the way the drawing is drawn. You might want to go towards your enlarged site plan,
Yeah.
if you could. It appears that the proposed garage sits beyond your setback.
The proposed garage sits beyond.
So
this-
that dashed line that kind of goes along the bottom or the south side of the proposed garage.
No, that's a no. I think it's best to see it on this one.
Is that your?
That's a line lining up. The actual, this is the
Gotcha.
property line. That's just a line indicating the lineup with the house.
Excuse me, Commissioner Elaine Lund. May I? Zoom in on this a little bit. The way I read this when I was reviewing it is that well, it's a little blurry, but, there's a dimension, there's arrows on the outside of that. I think this is showing us the distance from the rear property line to the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And here, this is the south side yard setback at 6.5. This is an RS 50 zoned property, and the required setback on the interior side lot line would be 3 feet for an accessory structure, so they didn't have any issues with
Okay.
the zoning placement there.
And then could you go to your wall section for me? Then could you tell me where you found this section?
It came from the builder.
Okay. Do you have any section cuts through the window to show the window construction?
I'm gonna cut through, but there's more detail on the window.
Okay. I have no further questions at this point. Any additional questions from the commissioners?
Not for myself.
Okay. The applicant is allowed 5 minutes at this time for any rebuttal to any of the questions or comments that were made so far.
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, the public hearing will be closed. The commissioners will discuss the case starting on my left.
Other than some detailing, I really have no issues with this proposed project.
No issues either. It seems consistent.
I agree. I think if, do you want to condition the details?
I would suggest that we make some sort of statement regarding the, that the documentation of the window and the door installation does not include, is not included in any of the sections, and that there isn't any notation of how it would be finished out. Those are the things we're most concerned about from the aesthetic viewpoint, and that window will be facing the side Gladys Street elevation. So, if in the future the fence was pulled away, that would still be something we'd want to understand. So I do think we need to. And then I know they showed the garage door in the elevations, but there was no section for that as well. So it's just the trim details, I think,
Completing the
from
details.
aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the public view.
I have no question or comment.
I think I would tend to agree in terms of the detail, and I think between the wall section, the missing details for the windows and the doors, I think there could be a little bit more, but I don't think there needs to be anything drastic that would, hold anything back. Any other additional questions or comments from
Would it
commissioners?
be appropriate to have these details that are in question dealt with staff? There is a strong intention here to substantially match the existing structure, even though it is non-conforming. The existing structure has simple punch windows, simple punch doors for the most part. As long as that continues for this accessory structure, I think it would be in keeping. I think a wild change in terms of the detailing, setting back the window or adding a bunch of trim around it just wouldn't make the match appropriately. And I don't see that happening at this point in time with the documents that were presented.
Agreed.
I would agree as well. I think as long as they are matching the existing house, it's fine. So, besides the detailings for the window installation and the door, is there any additional conditions we'd like to discuss? All right. Would anyone like to?
I would like to entertain making a motion. So I'd like to make a motion for final approval with conditions. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 20-55 for the property located at 309 East Gladys Street in the Tampa Heights Historic District, with the following conditions: that the detailing of all openings, especially at the public viewpoints to the alley and to East Gladys Street, be reviewed and worked through with staff to ensure alignment with the existing structure in terms of its detailing and finished materials. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights Historic District design guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that it continues to align with massing and building form as related to surrounding structures, that it maintains the setback, relationships, orientation, and site coverage, and that it maintains materials.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Elaine Lund. The next item on the agenda this evening is an application for new construction, also in Tampa Heights, at 2307 North Morgan Street. This is also a corner property. It is at the southeast corner of Morgan Street and Amelia Avenue. This application includes a new primary structure, a new accessory structure, and site work. So, let's see. I'm doing a very good job of shuffling my papers here. So the property here, this is the 1920s Sanborn map. The property in question is shown here in green. And you can see that at the time that this map was made, there was a house here facing Morgan Street, and there's a bit of a wraparound porch there. There was an accessory building off Amelia Avenue, and you can see its proximity here to the what was then called the Michigan Avenue Grammar School, now the Tampa Heights Elementary School, that's undergoing reconstruction. This entire area here is part of the school property now. And we see that kind of here in the more modern, recent aerial of the area. So that's it's currently a vacant lot, the subject site. We have Morgan Street here, Amelia Avenue here, and this is the part of the school site here to the north. So moving through the rest of the photos, this is looking at the subject site from the west. So we're looking at it from Morgan Street. This is looking at the subject site from the north, so we're looking south from Amelia Avenue. You see the adjacent building there. This is that house that is you just saw that's directly to the south on Morgan Street. And this is the house directly across the street on Morgan. This is the school site to the north, looking at it from Morgan Street. This shot's looking south along Morgan. You can see the kind of alignment of the historic houses and the porches close to the front of the properties. Looking north on Morgan. See some of the non-contributing structures here, and the school site here. The next block up has 3 buildings on it that were relocated from a different portion of Tampa Heights a few years ago, and make a nice contribution to that part of the neighborhood. This is on Amelia Avenue. This is the next property over to the east. And then this is looking back along Amelia to the west, looking with Morgan Street in the distance there. And then a shot looking along Amelia to the east with the subject site to your right in this photo. At this time, I'll have the applicant come forth and make his presentation, and then I'll give my staff report after that.
Good evening. My name is Dominic Furlano with DK Design Concepts. I'm a home designer, recent graduate of USF School of Architecture and Community Design, 2012. I guess I'll walk you through the project first, and we'll continue through some of the details afterwards. The project is oriented north. We're at the corner. There, from the earlier photos that you had seen with Elaine, there are 2 large trees on the site, and the clients would wish to preserve as many trees as possible. Knowing that it's a corner lot early on in design, we wanted to try to bring in a wraparound porch, or at least an enlarged porch, and keep some of the public spaces, the kitchen and the living and dining, on the street side, and then put some of the more private spaces, bedrooms, et cetera, on the more concealed side. We have a small carriage house, a 2-story carriage garage. And the second story will have a game room of sorts. So we have the roof plan. This is the front entry, so now the north is facing to the left. I wanted to orient the plans as if you were stepping into it. So you enter the front porch. We have the dining, or the living, and then rear windows to the rear porch open up to the clients expressed they wanted a rear yard. They've actually just relocated from Houston Heights, where it was a lot of historic homes, so they kind of knew what kind of neighborhood they wanted and knew the kind of design that they were looking forward to. So they wanted to step in and have a nice opening to the rear yard with the rear porch. Some of the initial designs we actually had a breezeway connecting to the porch, but after some pricing exercises, we had to eliminate some things. We have a small bedroom and utility area and a bathroom off to the right. And flanking that on the other side is a kitchen that's kind of central to the house. And then there's some larger windows over the kitchen counter that face north to try to bring as much north light in as possible. And to the rear of the house, we have a stairwell that's kind of act like a light well in a sense. There'll be a large opening with larger windows up on the second landing of the stairwell, bringing in some light. And as you come up this stairwell here, these are large windows, and this will be an opening below. And we'll have 2 bedrooms upstairs, one being a simple bedroom with a small bath, and the other one being their master suite. The stairwell is kind of a shed dormer of a wall. And then we have another shed dormer, or wall dormer, concealing their master bath. Again, the second floor of the carriage garage will have exterior stairs that will have a balcony on the back, and as you enter in the second floor, it'll be open. They just want to have it as a larger game room, art room. Roof overhangs typically are going to be 2 feet, and then over the 2 dormers we have them at 12 inches on the sides, and it's still 2 feet overhanging the front edge. Here's the front elevation, which faces west, and we'll have brick piers with like a sitting rail of cedar most likely, and a gable front end. And they expressed early on in some of the early meetings that they wanted like a double gable look, and we have some imagery later. The north elevation is this. So this is the kitchen windows here, and this is the bedroom above. So these look directly out to the school to the north that's being built. A pretty decent sized porch that wraps around that edge as well, which engages in not only the underside of the tree, but as the corner. Just kind of give it a really nice street presence. That was another one of the things that they mentioned early on, that they didn't want like a 4 or 6 foot porch. They wanted something a little bit larger, more engaging, something that they saw in the neighborhood. And so that's, we definitely want that. If we have to take something somewhere else, let's keep the porch. And this side of the house is in the same elevation of your carriage garage here. I wanted to keep these elevations next to each other so you can kind of see the proportions. And it's going to be a single carriage house garage door with some larger windows above to allow in as much light as possible. Again, that's facing north, and it's going to be kind of an activity room. As you exit the rear porch, directly in front of it's going to be a single door entry into the garage, and then wooden stairs to an overhang porch that'll be fully covered. The stairs won't be covered, but the porch will. I included some, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess we looked at this. Oh, this is the south elevation. So this is that bedroom suite, and this is the master bathroom dormer. And then again, you can see the porch sticks out, I think 9'4" from the face of the house. They want it as large as possible. The steps will be flanked by two smaller knee walls that are brick. And we're going to do brick steps as well, brick over concrete. And as you step down, it'll be out to a paver walkway. This is a water table detail showing the smooth finish exterior lap siding, probably like a hardy composite base, onto a PT water table edge with a composite-based fascia board to help with rot mitigation. Below that, at the crawl space, we're going to do a rot-resistant wood, most likely cedar, and then later on you'll see, well, I guess we have some elevations of it here, but we'll be able to see it in 3D. And then the window head jamb and sill details. Initially, we were looking at a different window brand, but some of the local suppliers aren't using, I don't want to say the brand out loud, but we had to switch to a different brand relatively not very long ago. And we really do like what they have. It's an aluminum wood-clad window. There's a lot of nice depth to it, some nice details. We brought a sample with us. We are doing, on the wider windows, we're going to do a 3/1 light pattern, and on some of the more narrow windows, we're going to do 2/1. And we have a couple small cased windows. It'll just be a single pane, but we'll split the pane. That way it kind of keeps in contact with the same proportion of divided light. We have a couple different size brackets. The typical one, the most occurring one, is on the larger gables and on the garage. There's a smaller version of this on the shed dormer and a little bit larger one holding up the rear porch in conjunction with the other floor structure there, which we haven't engineered, so we're not sure about the final exact size at this point. To continue the elevations, this is the rear elevation that's between the house and the garage. We'll have steps up, large doors and windows, just to allow in as much light so they can open them up, and then the dining room becomes an extension into the rear porch, and then again into the rear yard. And this is you can kind of see the stairs drawn here as a line, some line work. This will be the stairwell / light well. These are the two windows in the rear master suite. This is the rear elevation of the two-story carriage garage. Ground floor will do like a simple window kind of centered on the space. And then above, as you get onto the porch, we'll have an entry door and two other windows that are comparison in size to some of the other scale windows on the project. On each side, which is east and west of the house, we're going to have two lights, just allowing as much light in as possible. These are stair sections. The first one is at the carriage garage. Just a simple, PT wooden stringers. We're going to have a support midway up, some heavy timber tread, and depending final engineering, we'll structure the floor integral so it integrates with the building, as well as having the brackets here to support the main beam that's going to wrap around. Guardrails will be a 3-foot minimum. Pickets, we're going to do 5 inches on center, most likely, so that there's a minimum 3 7/8 inch gap. Wood PT post. Now the interior stairwell, I have sections here. When you enter from the kitchen dining area, you're going to step up to a landing, a few steps more up to the secondary landing, and that's kind of where you'll engage most physically with the window. But there should be plenty of light coming in through this whole space to kind of help illuminate the kitchen and dining area. So when you walk in the front door, that's going to be the anchor. You'll have some windows to the right, out to the exterior porch, and then to the left, there's a lot of light coming into the space. This is that section here showing the landing, secondary landing, and the association with, if you're standing here, which I put a little figure here, I'm not sure if you could see, but just the proportions of this to the outside, and then it'll continue up to the truss floor. We have a conventional truss system everywhere, but I would assume upon final engineering that we'll do more of a conventional framing member that'll sister on to that truss system and fly overhead with depth accordingly to what we can manage with the insulation values at that point. We're going to use a spray foam Icynene-based insulation throughout. Here are a couple detailed wall sections. One being the front porch. We'll have the small knee wall. It'll be in alignment with the tongue and groove wood deck. Another 2 feet or so up to the other knee wall, or I guess it's a knee wall once you're on the porch. That'll carry the load for the sitting rail. I'm showing some, how the post is going to concrete into the, how it's going to anchor into the concrete, and basically I show the trim levels dictating kind of the offset in trim, and then they're shown on the elevation accordingly. We'll use a smooth hardy-based or composite-based material for the beam presence as like a fascia board on the inside and outside. On the inside, we'll use a bed mold trim to help terminate the ceiling into the beam. We'll do a T&G type ceiling in there, cost prohibitive. We might go with a bead board, but I want to go with something that actually mimics the T&G, not the stripe bead board itself. As we continue up, we'll have some faux gable vents that you can see on the elevations, but we'll keep that proportion and keep the proportioning right to what should actually be there. Again, another one of the brackets will be holding out the barge rafter. That's going to continue. That'll be carried by the other brackets, which isn't a lot of load. We'll have a black or gray asphalt-based shingle system. And this is kind of a typical section at one of the windows. We kind of already talked about the water table, the flooring. They'll probably just do a wood composite interior flooring over the structural sheathing, and nothing different. The soffits will be an exposed open rafter tail soffit with a 1x member at the end as a nailer, and we'll actually integrate T&G into the soffit truss system from the truss manufacturer, and then lay the plywood over the top of that so it planes out as a nailer, and then it'll carry itself from truss to truss. Again, spray foam Icynene insulation throughout, and I kind of went through some of these other details as I spoke earlier. The garage is going to be a monolithic thickened edge slab on grade. Will be like 4 to 6 inches above grade, pending final grading. The siding will match what's on the house, and the windows will match, obviously, and we'll have the same exterior roof hang detail. And on the interior, we're going to try to scissor truss that so it kind of brings that space. It's a long, narrow space, and try to open it up a little bit vertically. The bearing point, I think, is right at 8 feet for the ceiling there, or 7/8, so it's a little bit lower. So we wanted to spring line that, open that up a little bit. And we did that so that we can keep the same roof slope that coordinates with the house, but keep it underneath the 22.5 foot maximum roof height from grade. I wanted to show a couple references, which might be similar to what Elaine had showed a few minutes ago. This is the neighbor's house directly to the south, and this is, I mean, can I move this? So I get more? Zoom up? Okay. Let me know if these are too small or anything. So what's really neat about this part of the neighborhood is, in historic terms, is quite eclectic. It seems like every other house is a different style, different form, different height. So from them being from Houston Heights and transferring here, when we actually walked the neighborhood, we spent like an hour just looking around and seeing what it is they liked or didn't like, or how to kind of fit into this in a way that would appease with their needs and wants, and in the neighborhoods as well. So obviously from the first 3 houses to the south, they're completely different language, but there's so much of that going on there that it becomes very uniform. This is the next 3 houses to the west, so across the street. So you can see there's different roof pitches, different organization for the front porches and columns, different size porches. It's really quite nice to see so many different elements and materials being used. These are the next couple houses to the east. Again, nope, I'm sorry, these are still, okay, this one's still across the street, and then these 2 are the next 3 to the east, which terminates with this large building. I'm not sure if it's a church or if that's a school. But I was trying to show the massing proportion of the buildings to the east kind of relate to our carriage house garage, and some of the forms and the roof hips, as well as the roof pitches, kind of match what we're trying to do with our project. This down here is kind of a study showing the massing of our elevation in accordance with some of the neighbors. So they're all so very different, but we tried to kind of keep that form in mind as we develop the project. That's one of the houses to the east, and I kind of wanted to show our house's footprint within some of these are the houses to the east, and that's that large school. This is the school under reconstruction, and some of the houses to the west. The footprints it's not like shotgun house, shotgun. It's very, there's a lot of different variations to it. Just wanted to show some other carriage houses within the neighborhood. And this one actually looks a little bit wider than ours. And again, we're going to have larger windows on there. And this one actually looks about the same footprint, which I think actually showed up in one of Elaine's images from the previous project. And I just kind of wanted to show how the front porches are used as your setback limitations, and how uniform the neighborhood becomes because of that, and that they're all allowed to be different, and with different materials and colors, and they get quite playful. These are some other houses in the neighborhood that are within a block or 2, maybe more, based on walking distance, that we wanted to pull from some of the ideas and the size and scale of some of these elements. Like having a bump out here or here kind of mimics what we did with our kitchen area, separating itself from the space along the setback, pushing the main building back a little bit. There's some shed dormers in the neighborhood. Some are steeper pitch, some are shallower. But again, a lot of large front porches, and our clients wanted to make that a very strong part of the project. This is a project that I found on a whim on my way back home, that actually kind of looked like some of the proportions we're using in our project, and I was unaware of this project until it was further along the process. And here's a couple different views showing, and it's a corner house, so it's neat to see how that kind of works with the shade and the structure and the opening to the corner. These are a couple other houses that have similar like double gables within Tampa Heights neighborhood, but I'm familiar with this house is actually in Seminole Heights. but it's got a very beautiful double gable on each side. Our front door is a little bit offset from the center of the concrete walkway. I mean, the brick steps and the brick paver walkway, and I wanted to show that there's some relevance to that, historically speaking. And it's based on the functionality of how you enter in the house. And it doesn't throw off the front elevation too much, and these just happen to be two houses across the street from our project, that this door is offset to the left, and this one is offset to the right from center. We do have a curved walkway in front of our project that we initially didn't have because we were worried it wasn't really, it wouldn't pertain to the historic neighborhood, but our clients really wanted to keep the two trees as shade devices as well as being as green thumb as possible. So we were hoping, because it is a corner project, that we could introduce a curved paver on grade design that would be appeasable to the historic neighborhood. And we went over it a few times as well with staff, and everybody thought it was a good attempt at making a solution to move forward with. And the brick paver would be a similar, a weathered or a used looking brick, and then this is the curved walkway that we're just using as reference to say that they do exist. And I'm guessing there was probably a tree here at one time, and that's probably why they curved it. These are the trees that we're speaking of. So our curved walkway will actually start where the sign is and wrap around this tree. And talking with the city's arborist as well as a third-party arborist, they actually both feel quite comfortable that that would be an acceptable solution in keeping in our distance that we've set in the site plan. And they said it's okay to trim some of these trees because there's some of the low branches obviously conflict with the house, but they said the trees would actually, it would help them if they did trim them. At some of the window manufacturers here or window suppliers here in town, they had some really cool mock-ups showing the actual windows that we were wanting to propose. And I had a correction to one of my drawings at one point that my center jamb between two windows was too narrow based on some of the windows that actually come as a kit. And educating myself, I realized that it was based on the center mold between two windows is wider due to the cavities in place for the weights on the double and single hung windows, and it just never even dawned on me that that'd be the case. So today, obviously, we don't have weights, but our windows usually come built with a built-in jamb, and then you add that jamb to the actual structure of a 2x6 wall, it ends up equaling out to be about the same dimension. And then these are some houses that the clients came forward with, basically from the internet when we first met. That they really, really like the double gable look with as much porch face as possible. But obviously on their particular lot, this is a much bigger house in terms of footprint. So we had to kind of reconstruct how they wanted to enter the house and where those porches were acceptable. Our project has a front porch with a lower termination, and I wanted to show something that had a higher termination on one end to where they weren't even. And there's two houses as an example, and they're not necessarily in our Tampa Heights neighborhood, but I'm trying to show some sort of reference to that. And then that's another gable facing structure that we thought would coordinate well with our project. I'm going to show you another figure ground study kind of, and it's based on. I didn't know about the actual Sanborn map until some of our first meetings with Elaine, and after seeing this, and it kind of was neat because it kind of coordinates with our plan, and that was just a happy accident with the wraparound porch as much face to the north as possible. This house happens to have kind of a dogleg structure, and we didn't find any photos to actually see what the house looked like. But I thought it was pretty neat that this particular house had a lot of different shape and geometry to it, whereas a lot of the other houses in the neighborhood were quite square, except for a few, obviously. So I just kind of wanted to show, so the ones in gray are no longer, they've been demoed, or, something's happened to them in the past. And then this is our footprint over the previous one. And then this is actually the current footprint now in the neighborhood. It's kind of desolate, not a lot of houses around, but they're moving in. This is a material palette for the project. These would be the pavers that we would look to use on the walkway as you enter the house. Like a mission split, or it has some age to it, but we were leaning towards the grayish red version. So it wasn't. So we kind of tie in with the concrete, but tie into the color of the house without it being too abrupt. The piers on the house we'd want to use with a classic style. We were thinking this Westport, the gray and the white, but I think because most of the neighborhood is red brick based, we kind of wanted to blend in and have it work as best as possible. I mentioned earlier the cedar used for the crawl spaces. The porch deck traditionally is a 5/4 board, tongue and groove, and it could be stained or painted. The ceilings, we'd want to use a 4-inch tongue and groove, or again a beadboard that's actually looks like tongue and groove, V-groove. This is an image showing kind of the traditional ceiling and a nice historic home. There's actually exposed rafter tails with a soffit, as well as a porch. Now this is our particular project, showing the cedar crawl space ventilation and the brick piers, the cedar sitting rail, and the blue siding. At the entry doors, we'll use a wall lantern. It has some decent height to it because our project's kind of tall and our proportions are tall, so we wanted to kind of mimic that. And the rear porch, or maybe over the stairway, will have a pendant light of the same character. On the rear porch, we might use something like this if they don't put up the ceiling fan. And the ceiling fan kind of would look pretty neat. Has a variation of modern and traditional, but it looks like it would match the aesthetic. This is a smooth finish hardy siding, and actually the window trim details down here would be very similar to what we would use as well. Here's some hardy trim for the corner boards, like a 5-inch wide corner board, a 6-inch smooth face siding. Oh, that 1x4 wood was on that sheet. This sheet here was for the soffit on this page, just showing that the exposed rafter tails. Ours will actually be a plumb cut rafter tail, not like this square cut, and we won't have requirements for ventilation because of the isoning, so we won't have any ventilation shown. This is probably a 12-inch overhang here on the gable, but ours will be 24 inches. Front door wanted to be a wood. This one happens to be mahogany with a 3 light. We have hardware for both doors. This is the rear French door, and then we're going to want to do side lights that are similar to that. This is kind of the effect that we're going for, but maybe the final example is a little bit more in line with what we have in our elevations. Here's the garage door. We've drawn it in elevation, and then we were able to find one that kind of matches the size. I have a couple more pages. This is the actual window and the window sample that I brought. Some of the literature on it. It's a aluminum clad wood frame window. These are actual photos of the window. These are manufacturer's photos, and these are two of the actual sample that we'd brought. These are another manufacturer's photos of the window. They do want to have a privacy fence. Oops, sorry. At the exterior boundary, at the boundaries that aren't adjacent to one of the main streets, they use a fence similar to this, and then they may fence in area between the carriage house and the house itself, and they want to use something a little bit more ornate in that particular area. Last sheet is roof criteria, shingle criteria, sorry. We'll use an architectural shingle. It'll be a gray, black look, dimensional. It'll hold up to the current code wind standards.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Commissioners, Elaine Lund. Staff found that this application is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines. You had a very thorough presentation here. It looks like a very, very well thought through project. I did meet with the designer and the owners a few times to discuss several of the details, and also some of the other site issues. And we have a few of those. That's primarily what I want to bring to your attention, just to make sure that, one, you're aware of them, and two, that a few things get included in the your motion this evening. Let's see. First, the applicant did do a good job of going over this, but the curved brick walkway, we just wanted to make sure that you are aware that that is something that's not characteristic of the district. Usually the straight or maybe flared concrete, poured concrete walkway is. I think the applicant has given you a very thorough explanation of what his intention and design is there. The fencing that was shown at the end of the presentation, that is something that we'll need to take a look at. We can do that at the staff level. Fencing is something we routinely approve at the staff level. I don't think I reviewed that as part of the application previously, but there is a condition in the Tampa Heights design guidelines that on corner lots, fencing can only be a certain height along the side yard as well as the front yard. So wrapping all the way around the house, the fence height has to be lower. And then finally, with the front yard setback and the accessory structure height, we have been in conversation with the division in our department that handles the zoning and setback issues now, and they are looking for the applicant to have a design exception application in for those items. We don't expect that there will be any major issues with that. As you saw, those items are consistent with the surrounding area, and they would have full support of the staff from our office. So if you have any questions about that, I'm available to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, we will open the hearing to any public comment. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to the portion for the commissioners to ask questions, starting on my right.
Trend to be related to your site plan. So if you could pull that up for our review, please. At the outset of my question, I appreciate you and your client's effort in synthesizing a lot of variety of details found in the immediate neighborhood, various structures. I would like for you to address, if you may, your conceptual relationship to this corner relation you have with the building on its corner, as well as the two faces that face the public, and how those elements of your building, the mass of the residence itself and the mass of the porch as it relates to your neighbors?
Well, I think some of the neighbors' houses directly across the street, there's a lot of language of front porch activity, a lot of larger front porches that span the majority of the face of the elevation, and there's also some smaller ones. Some of the houses directly to the south have corner condition properties, corner condition porches. And also within the Tampa Heights code, it dictates that there's actually a requirement for a porch to be a corner porch on a corner lot condition. That requirement is technically 50% of the length of the lot, which is kind of long for somebody's budget to handle that much exterior space. So we have an ample size porch facing west with as much turn as possible, but let the form of the function of the interior as the kitchen bumps out to kind of offset that language of the turning porch, give it something to terminate into. Now that porch also faces north, and there's a school there, so it's not like there's a lot of language going on with the neighborhood houses to the north, but there are more houses to this general direction that have porches as well. So with this porch terminating here, it kind of privatizes itself to the more public activities that are going on at the school. There's a basketball court here, some other areas I'm sure that'll be designated. I haven't seen the final plan for the school. I've looked at it recently, so there's going to be a lot of new activities going on in that lot. And I think with that porch and not going all the way down that direction, it kind of helps offset that public activity, giving it more of a private porch feel. Form-wise, like I said, the clients really wanted that double gable look. When we looked at some houses and actually drew some houses initially that had more formal walls along the sides, it just wasn't jiving what they were thinking that they wanted in the neighborhood. So we toured the neighborhood again, and we were really able to kind of find those double gable houses that they just really kind of fell in love with that aesthetic. And then this porch has a lot of language and intersection with the tree that's there. When you're standing at this corner looking down this direction, there'll be a nice tree canopy area, and it's just going to, the proportion of it's going to be nice. If the tree went away, it might seem like quite a large porch in an area that it just seemed like the tree needed to be there to help create that atmosphere in between the spaces. And actually, I have a 3D image that I could use to help navigate that. So that's the front porch as it faces west, and this is that curved walkway between the two trees.
Thank you.
Continue.
I didn't know.
Sorry, I was going to ask the IT staff to put what you were showing on the screen, and they did.
Oh, I understand. And then this is the elevation facing towards the school. So that's the kitchen window, and I think, to answer your question, I think the activity going on at the school would help be mitigated by that wall being there, and the porch then being a little bit more private.
Thank you. You've addressed the fence issue. Your air conditioning systems, utility area, where is that and how is it being screened? Can you address that for us, please?
Sure. Is it? We have our main AC unit on the south side of the house, along with our electric meter and panel box. The proposed fence, the perimeter fence, as I mentioned, would come in front of that, or actually between the AC unit and the meter, and come around the property and terminate at this edge of the garage. And on this garage, we'll most likely use a mini split, and the AC condenser for that is quite small, so it can be either mounted to the garage, but we'll keep it below the fence, so it's not a visible thing.
Very good.
If there is some sort of requirement to put that higher for any reason, we could maybe put it on the back of that elevation, but we haven't gotten that far with development yet.
Understood. I also understand from your design parameter at this point in time that you're planning on a brick paver for your sidewalk, which is your entry sidewalk.
The entry sidewalk here.
Yes.
Yeah, a paver on grade.
Can you address for us your detailing for your driveway ribbons? Are you also using a brick paver or a brick overlay on that as well?
Not initially, just due to settlement issues. We wanted to use a concrete ribbon base. If it's in aligns with the budget, then we can address that with them through design. But I think aesthetically, the paver driveway would look much better with ribbons if we could do an underlayment of concrete to help the
Stabilize it.
Yeah, to keep that from moving around.
Thank you very much. That's all my questions for the moment.
I had a question about this, your window sizes on the main structure. If you could pull the elevations. It seems like there are, I don't know, at least 3 different sizes and strokes. So I've got a 3/1 and several 2/1s. Is that something that you've considered? And then
They're the size-wise is based on function. This is in the downstairs bathroom, so we want to keep that sill up away from the wet area. And this one is actually in the kitchen area, and we want to keep that sill up above the counter area. And it's on the side wall, which is back 14 feet or more from the front edge, so it's further back than most of the other windows, and most likely in the shade. It won't be perceived as being so forward as the other windows. The 3/1, and where was the 2/1 that you mentioned?
on the elevation to the right of what you're.
Oh, these ones.
Yeah.
Because this is in the bedroom, we wanted 2 windows in there, but we wanted it to be a little more narrow. So when you narrow the window and keep it the same height, we didn't want to try to fit a third light in there and keep the proportion. So in the end, the divided area of the light actually is quite close to matching the triple window divided areas. And on this elevation, this window is substantially wider due to it being centered in the kitchen.
That one I understand.
And so we divided the light the same way.
The windows over the garage doors, I find a little bit over proportioned.
Okay.
So,
We had 3 equal lights there, and just to give it a little bit more light, we made it a little bit wider.
Okay. Thank you.
No questions.
Can you just state what the slopes are? I think there are 2 different slopes on your elevations. It's just really hard for us to see these drawings. So.
Okay. The shallower slope is a 3 and 12, and
Okay.
steeper is an 8 and 12.
8 and 12. Okay.
And some of the houses directly across the street have the same slope, if not higher.
All right. And then on the gable ends, I wasn't quite sure if you answered this or noted this in the sections, but at the top where the gable is supported by the bracket, behind that, what is that detail? What is that actually going to be? It looks like there might be vertical lines lightly drawn behind the bracket, but I can't really tell. At all the top of your gables.
Okay. Yeah. The bracket will be set along the same plane as those vertical pickets. So in essence, yes, it's in section, but that picket is drawn in elevation in front of that bracket. So the bracket will be set, and then the faux vent will be spaced accordingly off of that on the same plane.
What's behind the pickets?
It's not a vent. It's not a real. It's not
I
an
understand
active
that, but I'm just trying to get to what everything is in that plane. What's
Oh.
making it that plane?
Well, I guess I have it as a finished ply material that we could paint a darker
Like
color.
a T11 or something like that?
Give can't think of what to.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's all right.
Something that's a waterproof barrier
All right.
that.
But it's gonna be behind the picket, so there'll be some dimension.
Yeah,
right?
at least an inch. We want to
Okay.
use like a 1x2
All
potentially.
right. I don't think I had any other questions. Most of mine got, oh, I do want to go back to your site plan, because you located the fence where it started and ended, but between the two buildings, the two structures, where is that located?
Initially, they don't want a fence, just so you know, but we've talked about if they do want a fence, they want to anchor it to this portion of the corner, which is, so the fence would terminate into the side, it'd be set back some, and then come this direction and turn back with a gate, and then terminate into this garage, the front wall. We've talked about potentially bringing the fence this way, but they thought if they were going to bring a fence into their yard and keep it private, they wanted to try to create as much usable play space between the two structures as possible.
So are there no gates right now on the other portions that you do know that you're going to be putting in, right?
I would
So these all solid?
suspect we wouldn't need it because that's kind of an area you don't want people to have access to if you're not around. But yeah, we just have this gate here right now.
Okay. And what type of fencing is it again? Did you state that?
No,
That's
like,
being proposed?
like a typical stockyard kind of fence. Do you want me to bring up the photo?
Oh, did you, yeah, I might have just
It was
missed
like
that
the
when you were
last-
going through,
It was like the last 2 seconds of.
when the beeping was going on.
Yeah, the fire alarm.
But to clarify real quick, the submission for this project does not include the fence, correct?
It's on the site plans.
Okay.
From my understanding, right now, they do not want it at the location between the house and the accessory structure. Is that correct? I thought I heard you say that.
I think we left it out initially, but if the school became, extremely public, then we may want to put a fence there to kind of.
So we are reviewing a fence.
Yes, let's review the fence.
Okay.
They would like the fence.
So can you show the imagery of the fence again, and if you have a proposed gate as
I-
well?
Don't have a gate.
Okay.
It would have a standard handle similar to what we have on the garage door, and probably some metal brackets. But
Okay.
maybe it's something we can validate with staff later.
All right.
But between the house and the garage, they wanted to use something a little bit more ornamental, like this. And then on the other boundary areas that aren't really prevalent, they wanted to use something more standard.
Okay. That's it for my questions or comments.
I have a question for you regarding the site plan. Or I'm sorry, your elevation. So one of the comments from staff was to look at historic reference within the district for the design sort of reference piece. The examples that you showed were a really nice descriptive kind of what the mindset was from the beginning all the way kind of to this project. Which one of those examples are historic or kind of in the district, are either near or around Tampa Heights?
So. This is very similar to the front gable in proportion and slope, and that's directly across the street.
Okay.
This is in the boundary between Tampa Heights and Ybor Heights. I don't recall the exact streets because it was kind of like heading back through Ybor for lunch, and then I was like, oh, and I turned around the block and found it. This house is due north of their project, but I don't recall if it's across Columbus or not. This one is in the same area. These are closer to the house, but north of the house, all within Tampa Heights.
Okay. So would you say that a majority of the photos are taken within the
Yes,
Tampa Heights?
only, yeah, only the last photo was, or the last sheet had projects that were their own client imagery.
Could you go to the first floor plan? I have one question and kind of one comment for you. First question, I know you talked about the reasoning behind the porch not wrapping all the way kind of fully around the building and, 50% of it. Was there any effort to look at if that was achievable, or was that kind of from the beginning on kind of decided it wasn't something we wanted to go down?
No, the first iteration of our design, we had the porch come back further. The kitchen plan was pulled back further, but because of the setback distance requirements between that and the carriage house that they really wanted, initially they wanted a two-story or a two-car carriage house. It's kind of out of character for the neighborhood.
Okay.
So we kind of pulled everything back a little bit, and then due to some cost analysis, started consolidating things.
Okay. And this is more of a side note comment, probably more for you. One thing I would look at is codes for ovens and cooktops. I don't believe they can be in front of or below a window.
As long as it's a non-operable tempered glass window, I believe it's okay.
Okay.
I'll make sure I double check that.
Yeah, you typically see the sink under the window.
Yes, and that was a request. And
Okay.
then one of our initial concerns were that, and then I made sure I looked up the codes and see what was applicable.
So are all three non-operable or just the center one?
Just the center one.
Okay. Any other additional questions from commissioners, either for the applicant or staff? No? Okay. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, if any.
I think we're okay.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing at this point, and the commissioners will discuss the case. Any comments, or start on my left?
I really don't have any comments. In terms of the wraparound porch discussion, that's a question of design process, and it sounds like they vetted possibilities and got to a point where it was workable for them from aesthetics as well as an operational and budgetary standpoint. So I still think it fits within a historic condition. There's still that ability to have a corner perspective, right, and address that idea of views through from a side street to a primary street facade. The other thing that we talked about site-wise was the curved sidewalk to the main entry porch. I can't say that I've seen one in this particular historic district, but I know that I've seen them in our districts. And to me, that the idea that you work around the landscape, and especially a live oak or an oak tree with that much shade offering, it seems appropriate, historically appropriate. So I really have no issues with those two site conditions that we were discussing. And then in terms of the architecture, the historic appropriateness, the only thing that I really had some issues over, and you brought it up, was the window sizing changing. The only one I still may have some issue with is the very narrow two-light conditions at the bedroom. I can understand why they would like to minimize maybe the openings, but it's just a very odd proportion window for a bedroom when you look to the historic precedents. That's all I have.
Nothing additional. I have a problem with those windows, and I still kind of think the windows over the garage are overscaled for the small structure.
It's an odd.
In all the other elevations, they seem to proportion correctly. They change sizes a lot, but they all kind of change proportion appropriately, except for that one.
Agreed.
I really don't have a problem with the windows over the garage. I think the effort there is to match the opening size with respect to the garage door below it. The windows overall, I understand where they're coming from in terms of the functionality of the rooms behind it and what's happening. It doesn't seem to terribly bother me so much that the change in size exists. I'm happy with the consistency of its detailing. the broken light over, whether it be 2 or 3 over the single light, carries well through for the whole building, for the both of them, as a matter of fact. I personally find this dwelling and its accessory structure to be quite a charming addition to this neighborhood. I really, I understand the push and pull on how you get one of these projects launched and where you are. Add in the difficulty of of a corner facing a public school, and I think we have an excellent example of where something like this can go on this small lot.
Agreed.
I would tend to agree. I think this has been one of the better presentations in terms of details and some of the materials that we've seen. So I do want to
Agreed.
thank you on that one. It makes it a lot easier for us to kind of understand the project when we have everything in front of us. Besides the comments that were already mentioned, the window sizes, first look, it sort of bothered me a little bit in terms of the different sizes. However, understanding that as we kind of get a little bit farther away, you're not going to necessarily see all the windows next to each other. I do agree that I would like to see a little bit more uniform in the window sizes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's width-wise or maybe kind of the lower portion of the sill all kind of matches or something to where they all kind of start to become a little bit more uniform. I do agree. And then the other two comments I think we need to look at are making sure that the fence, that's for the staff review because this is a corner lot, making sure the height and the gate locations and then location of the fence and then also the design exception for the setback and the height of the house as well as the accessory structure. Besides that, there's no other issues for me.
Do we condition the setback and height? Or is that
Correct me if I'm wrong.
by somebody else?
I think we don't. Go ahead.
So if the commission is inclined to grant final approval, it would have to be conditioned upon the design exception being approved by the zoning administrator for both the front yard setback and then the height of the accessory structure, since the design that has been presented to you takes both of those into consideration.
Okay. Are there any other additional comments for the project? Questions?
No.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
You look like you're ready.
You wrote more notes, sorry.
Are you?
I can't.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, are you pointing to me?
Mhm.
Okay. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 20-60 for the property located at 2307 North Morgan Street, with the following conditions: that the fencing and gates material and locations be approved by staff. The driveway material is approved by staff. The design exception for the setback and height are approved. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines for the city of Tampa. For the following reasons: the scale, proportion, alignment, rhythm, and spacing is consistent with the guidelines.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could we have a short recess?
I make a motion for a 5-minute break.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you do have to do that.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. The last case that we're going to hear tonight is ARC 20-62. This is for the address of 1805 West Inman Avenue. It's in the Hyde Park Historic District. The primary structure is a contributing structure. The request in front of you this evening is for new construction for an accessory structure. I want to emphasize that this is not a carriage house. The bottom floor will not be for automobile storage or access. You'll see through the site plan and through some of the photos that I'll show that the automobile cannot navigate down the side of the structure because, the side of the parcel because of the structure's proximity to the side yard setbacks. So here, we start with the 1929 Sanborn to give you a reference of the fabric. Property in question is highlighted in the green box. Back in 29, there was an empty parcel to the east. I'll show you new construction that was approved in 2001. And then you see the rest of the fabric here. As a reference point, you have Hyde Park Village to the east. And then you have what was the railroad back in 29, and now that is the Summon Expressway. You have Inman here, that kind of dies into the back of Hyde Park Village, and then it dead ends into the Selman. This is the vicinity map to get your bearings. Once again, you have the Selman Expressway. You have a reference point of Hyde Park Village to the east, and then to the south, you have Kate Jackson Playground. This is an overhead showing the depth of this parcel. There is no alley that can be accessed into this parcel. You see the lavished canopy of the trees. Natural Resources was engaged in this discussion, and they're comfortable with the location of the accessory structure. The primary structure is approximately here, which faces Inman. Then you see the pool, and then the accessory structure will be to the north of the pool. In 1929, as indicated on the Sanborn, this was a one-story structure. Since then, it's been a series of additions to this very modest home. You see the second story peeking over the ridge on the one story. This is the south elevation. As you go around to the east elevation, you see the addition that was done some time ago, and then a one-story protrusion off of that. You do see this intermediate coursing here that will be reflected as well on the request in front of you this evening. This is the shared apron coming into the site. This is the west elevation, and this is the front. Focusing on that west elevation, you have the two-story volume, and then you have this little shed that comes off of that towards the west, and the dimension here will not allow the vehicle to go back past there. This is just showing some of the elements. This is the casing around the windows. You see the sill, you see the vertical members and the proportions, and then the headpiece. This is a 6/1 window. These are wood windows. You see the reveal of the lap siding. It's a 6-inch exposure. The gable vent with the knee bracket. This is a 2x8 fly rafter. And then you have the 2x6 exposed rafter tails. This is looking at the decking. It's a 1x T&G. Once again, you see the knee bracket piercing through the fly rafter. And there's a corner board here, and then you see the installation detail of the casing. This was the new construction that abuts it to the east that was approved in 2001. A non-contributing structure. Then a contributing structure to the west. This is the parcel that shared the apron. Directly across the street, across Inman, when you look out the front door. And then just a series of street shots. This is Inman. Property in question is over here, and this is showing how it dead ends into Crosstown. And then this is looking back on Emmett to the back of Hyde Park Village would be over here. At this time, I have Mr. Jones that'll address the board.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is our site plan, as Mr. Avila so eloquently put. We have a very tight space. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Have a very tight space, 7 foot 1 between the property line and the existing structure, so in turn no vehicles can get to the rear. Currently, there is a wooden shed here that will be removed. And this is the location of our accessory structure here. Our client's focus is to try to buffer out some of the visible and noise that comes from the crosstown here in this direction right here. So we have our 2-foot overhang, 2-foot setback from the property lines to our overhangs to make sure we're in the proper setbacks. Here is our floor plans for our accessory structure, 736 square foot total living space. Here's our front with our exposed rafter tails, 2x6s, 2x8s on the fly rafters with our brackets here. Our 6/1 lights are aluminum clad windows, wood clad windows with our trim details. Also our band trim to break up the massing to match the existing 2-story, which I'll show you in a second. This covered area right here, this covered slab is not living space. It's just a place where they can put their bicycles and lawn toys and things like that so the kids can play in the pool. Here's some pictures of the existing structure and how we correlate between what we're proposing in our accessory structure and the existing structure. Our columns are tapered columns that will match the front columns on the house. Our exposed rafter tails for our exposed rafter tails on existing structure. Our gable vents, our brackets, 6-inch lap siding for a hardy smooth. And then what I have on my next, this is the bump out here, by the way, that will make it unable to get vehicles into the back. Here's our details for our columns, our tapered column, 6x6 posts in the middle with a 1x taper with a base and wrappings at the top and the bottom. And then our window detail that to match the existing windows, our 6-inch exposed hardy siding that abuts the trim, just like the existing. Our 2x4 angle cut window sill to match the existing. All of the trim to match, obviously, the existing structure. Here's our wall sections to show the band trim and how the trim, or our siding butts into that trim. It does not go behind it. Our drip edges, our exposed rafter tails, our tongue and groove boards inside the soffit up on the top side to match the existing home. Asphalt shingles to match the existing as well. And then our window detail here on our cross section to show that the window is actually flush with the framing to match the existing house. And then just a detail of showing everything I just went through. Basically, the siding trim, the Craftsman doors, Craftsman style lights, the Gelman vinyl clad doors, windows, the fiberglass doors, and the shingles to match the existing. I'm talking very fast and I apologize because I'm really hungry. I didn't realize it was going to be here this long. So, and I think that's it. I think that's all I have. So.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Staff's findings that this application is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines with the plans that were submitted on December 20th to us. Since we received those plans, we generated our staff report and we had some concerns. He made the modifications to the plans that were submitted on the 20th to the plans that you saw today. I just want to briefly touch upon some items. Initially, on the plans that we reviewed, he had a pier and column system that kind of reflected the front porch on the Craftsman style home. I believe it was inappropriate to come with that design for the new construction, so he just has a column detail that he presented tonight. The mechanical is on the site plan, it's on the rear, it's not seen by anybody, and he has enough room that it meets City of Tampa code requirements as well. The square footage of the accessory structure is 736 square feet. For RS50, you could go up to 750 square feet and still have the 3 foot on the side and 3 foot on the rear. So the size of the structure is consistent for the RS50 zoning classification. The structure lacked gable vents initially, and the belt course, which are illustrated on today's drawings, and the inspiration is the primary structure. And then lastly, that because the height of the accessory structure does go above 15 feet in height, that a design exception is required as well. The agent has engaged in that process. He's filled out the application, and he's in review through land development. So I would put that as a condition if the board feels that this is worthy of final approval. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment. Seeing no one else, the commissioners will now discuss the project, starting on my right.
I notice on the ground floor, sir, you have basically a large panel of glass door, glass windows, glass side lights.
Yes, sir.
And they are indicated as being monolithic. Have you considered or approached anyone about having these divided in a manner that would be more sympathetic to the more conventional windows you were using on the second floor?
I can do that. We were just matching the front door and the rear door that's currently on the home, which is a monolithic single light. Yes.
Okay, I was not aware of that, sir.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Would you mind showing the front door? Because in our little image, it almost looks like it has divided lights.
It does show a 9 light. I'm sorry, I was matching the rear door. You're right, the front door does have 9 light. The rear door that goes, which I don't have a picture of, I'm sorry. But they would not be opposed to putting a grill in there for a 9 light as well. The rear door that goes out to the pool area is a single, doesn't match the front.
I could see that. I could really see that.
Any additional questions or comments?
No, I have no additional question.
I don't have any questions right now.
No questions.
I have a question/comment. The upper story windows on this elevation, that upper elevation, was there consideration made for, did you look at variations of where those windows were actually placed? Because to me, they almost seem to need a little bit more breathing room from either side.
So move them in closer from the
I'm
sides?
just saying reconsider their placement and how they actually, where they actually start. It just seems to me that they're a little out of proportion or balance.
Sure.
To my eye.
Yeah, I don't know that the client would have a problem with us
so-
moving it in to
Okay.
give that extra, I'm assuming you're saying the extra space right in here.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think my client would have a problem with
Typically, I
moving
would
in.
see a little bit more breathing room because when you look at a more classical composition,
Mm-hmm.
you will find that there's, it does do that.
Okay.
So
Yep.
just
I think-
reconsider that.
I think if you were to look at the image that's up on the board and our screen here, even the second story, you kind of see a little bit more space between the corner of the image on the bottom.
Oh, here,
Right
yes,
there,
right.
yeah.
Mhm.
So even there shows a little bit. Now the windows are smaller, but it does show a little bit more space.
The windows that are currently here, which is her son's room, I do believe is a bit closer, but again, I don't know if the homeowner would mind if they moved in at all.
I would just look at the composition. It
Sure.
just seems a little off.
Okay.
And then, could I look at the site plan one more time,
Sure.
please? Sorry. Could we zoom into the site plan, please? Thank you. So my understanding where it said the 2 foot to overhang, you are indicating to where the side setback requirement is for the property lines
It's,
themselves?
yes, 2 foot, is
Okay.
2 foot to the overhangs, but the overhangs are 18 inches, so it's actually 3.5
Okay.
foot from the structure to the
Right.
side.
That's why I was I wanted to be sure that
Sure.
the actual structure,
Yeah.
okay. Because that's, sometimes on site plans, we see the building form and then the overhang indicated differently, so. Okay, I have no other comments or questions at this time. Thank you.
Could you please go to, I think it was the left elevation?
This one?
No, it would be looking, if I'm looking at the top image elevation, it would be what was on the left side of that. So it should be the project's western facade. Or, yes, so the bottom right, left.
This one?
Yeah. What is your design intention, or how are you going to end sort of that little? I may be looking at this the wrong way. It looks like there's the intermediate kind of banding that runs along, yes, and then
Mhm.
below that there's a dark black line.
Correct, right?
What is that?
So this area right here is that covered porch or the covered slab area where they're gonna put the bicycles and stuff. This is the bottom of that wall. We could put a trim to match the corner trim if we wanted to.
So that corner piece right there is just gonna, or the corner floor plan wise is gonna be open.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So what would be, as drawn now, how would you kind of detail that piece to where that siding kind of ends and meets the roof?
Right here, is that?
Yes, sir.
We could continue this corner. Right, currently, it's just the siding is dying right there, and we'll cover the edge of the tongue and groove that's on the bottom side in that slab area, in that porch area.
Okay. Could you go back to the photo of the porch
This one?
on the house?
Yep.
Yes. And then could we zoom up?
This area right here?
Yeah, so in there it looks like what it's doing is the columns are kind of defining that top
Mhm.
piece, and then there's a trim board or the beam. I can't really tell in this image, but that's what's kind of capping that opening.
Right.
Is there a way to look at that condition and doing something similar around that back portion, or is it because of the roof height and the roof slope? Is that something that's not you're not able to do?
My only concern with that would be the water, if we did this along that side, because this has I guess that would have an
Overhang.
overhang too. That's a little further away. But no, yeah, we could do that. I mean, I could put a piece of a bottom cap on that beam right there.
Okay. Any other questions? They're for or against?
I have nothing.
Okay. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal.
The client is willing to do minor things like that to make sure everybody's happy and it flows well with the existing structure. So that's it.
Thank you. At this point, the public hearing portion is closed, and the commissioners will be discussing the case, starting on my left.
Window and, window placement and that minor detail, I think, just to finish out that elevation.
I think also the design exception.
And with the exception,
Yes.
noting that the exception is required for approval. Anybody else?
I agree with the window comment.
What about the divided lights on
I was
the,
about to ask.
on the
first-
lower
Oh, yes. The divided lights on the lower.
doors and side lights?
One of the reasons why I wanted to look at the site plan too was because of the placement and how far away it actually is from the street. I don't think that's actually a
don't know if you'll ever
concern
see it.
here. You'll never see it.
No, no, you're not gonna see it from the street, but it is gonna be seen with relationship to, you know, to the
Relating to
detailing
first and second
of the house itself.
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost a garden piece in many respects.
that's true. I mean, when you start to think about it from that perspective, as an accessory structure in a historic context, there's still something about that garden structure.
I think it just needs a little bit more attention
Okay.
in that vein.
Everybody else agreed or any disagreement with that?
I would agree.
Yeah, okay.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I got a list, so I'll do it. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 20-62 for the property located at 1805 West Inman Avenue in the Hyde Park Historic District, with the following conditions: that the window and doors on the first or ground floor level of the accessory structure be reconsidered in terms of some type of application to align with a historic divided light. That the windows on the poolside elevation as well at the second level be revisited in terms of their composition or placement to be more aligned with the historic rhythm and balance. And that the siding at the open porch corner, as it comes to its condition below the banding at the second floor level, be detailed to be in alignment more with the front porch. This condition of approval this approval is conditional upon a design exception approval required, which is in process by the applicant. And, the conditions, the approval with conditions is appropriate because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park Historic District Design Guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that the massing and building form are in alignment with the district guidelines, the setback, orientation, and site coverage as well, and that the materials and trim are in alignment as well.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion passes. Thank you.
You guys are much easier than the very board, by the way.
Meeting is adjourned.
That was a mouthful.
That was